Welcome back. So I hope your week went well, and I just wanted to do a check-in and see how things went with what you learned and the skills that you were practicing. So let's just start with, were you able to make your bed? I know that we had done that for the last 2 weeks, but I'm just wondering if you had not done it and then you decided to and how that went, especially after listening to that little clip from Admiral McRaven and how his opinion of making your bed, how important it is. And so I hope it went well, and I hope you were able to hold yourself to that high standard and do the work that it takes to make your bed. Then I'm wondering, we went on to gratitudes, and I'm wondering if you're like me, you kind of wake up with that feeling of doom and gloom, I guess I could call it, and you were able to use gratitudes to get over it, or were you just getting up and doing your gratitudes, or maybe throughout the day you used gratitudes to pick yourself up when you're feeling grumpy or overwhelmed or frustrated. And I hope you learn just how easy that is to do and how important it is for us, because it's really one of the quickest ways to lift our mood. And it also shifts us from that negative thinking over to a more positive view, getting the more summer thoughts rather than the winter thoughts. So I'm hopeful that worked out. And then I'm wondering, did you find a joy? Right? Was that a little bit more work? I always find it a little bit more work, especially the more irritating my day was, the harder it is for me to think about what brought me joy. But I'm hopeful that you were able to find a joy, or maybe 5 joys, right? Maybe you were able to do that. I sure hope so. And I hope you realize just how impactful that is for you, and shifting again your thinking over to a more summer-like view, more positive, more happy, more hopeful thoughts rather than the dour things that are our go-to usually. And then I'm wondering about, did you catch yourself thinking? And I remember I told you, you are going to check in with your thinking, and your brain's going to go, oh no, nobody's talking, nothing's going on here, I'm not thinking a thing. But I hope you were able to do that day after day, and then finally start to hear your thinking and get into that and understand sort of what are your thoughts. And then were you able to analyze them? Were they positive? Were they instructional? Or were they negative? And I'm sure hopeful that you realize that, wow, I do have a pattern of thinking. And then you realize what kind of changes you would like to make to those habits, those stinking thinking habits. And then finally, when you did that, were you able to ask yourself, is that true? And did you notice a lot of what we think is not actually 100% true, or we have no evidence that it's true, but we think it anyway? I think it's Brene Brown talks about, what you're thinking true? And then she says, well, who would you be without that thought? Right? And I think that's interesting. Like, if we don't go down that path of thinking, who will we be? How will it change us? If we don't think, what a jerk when somebody cuts us off, how will we be changed? And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be changed because you will feel like the world is a much brighter, happier place. And isn't that what we're after, right? Isn't that? Just hoping that all went well. And then if you got a chance to pre-read the book, you'll know that we're heading into limiting beliefs, the negative thinking, fear, and worry. And the skill will be, and then what? I think if you've read it, you also know that we need to be planning ahead for, making routines for ourselves. So we're going to get into that today. So why don't we get started? Of course, we're starting with a presentation because it's Teacher Heather. And I just feel like that's a great way to get us all together, going along the same path and learning the same thing. So let's go ahead and get started. All right? So we're going to start talking about those obstacles to living life well. And those obstacles are actually the way we think. And if you look at this slide, you'll see that there's a start down at the bottom of the mountain. And you start going, you go over your voice in your head. And now this week we're doing negativity, limiting beliefs, fear and worry. And then we'll get into judgment, self-worth, habits. And finally, we wind our way to the top where the finish is. And you go, ta-da, because that's truly what it will be like. We definitely have thinking obstacles, and my goal with this Get a Grip process is that I want you to get over those. I want you to reach your promise and potential. I want everybody to reach their promise and potential because I think that's important for us. I don't know if you're wondering, but I learned promise and potential when I watched the movie Lions for Lambs. And I usually pick up stuff from movies when I watch them. And I have to stop them and write it down. And I did that on this movie. It's Robert Redford and somebody else. And of course, Robert Redford was one of my favorites. But anyway, this Lions for Lambs, I'm not even really clear on what the movie was about anymore, except for this piece. And he's a professor, and a young kid comes in who's taking his course, and he's telling him, like, there's promise and potential, and they're fickle, right? And if you're not ready when they come along, they might just pass you by, and those opportunities are gone. And I firmly believe that. And that's why we need to be ready, on top of our game, ready to take a hold of those opportunities as they arise. And I want you to be able to grab them and experience them, whatever it is. So I want you to understand that promise and potential. So what is standing in our way of reaching our promise and potential? Well, it's us. Yeah, we believe things to be true, and they're just frankly not. And you've gone through that a little bit last week with asking, is that true? We all have habits. We brush our teeth, we exercise, we shower, we eat dinner at a certain time, whatever the habits are. And those are all physical habits, but we also have mental habits, those things, the way that we tend to view the world, the way we tend to react to things. Maybe we have road rage. That's a negative response. That's a negative thinking habit. Or maybe we say thank you whenever somebody gives us a compliment. That's a positive mental habit. Now, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we talk generally, the way we think generally, negatively, that's a habit, right? Do you insist you don't deserve a compliment when you get one? Do you try to shun it off like it's not real, like it's not true? I mean, that's just one example. Now, we can all learn to do better habits, right? One of the ways that we do that, right, with this negative thinking is we have to stop labeling events as good or bad, right? How about they just are, right? We don't exaggerate one experience and convince yourself that it's a reflection of your overall worth. No, it's just one experience. Nothing defines you, right? Like that. Nothing, not one thing. So I want you to quit minimizing and dismissing your strengths and your good qualities. I don't want you to exaggerate your weaknesses and see only your flaws. That's not helpful. Those are winter thoughts, right? One experience doesn't mean things will always be that way or never be that way again. No, it doesn't work that way. That's not true. And I don't want you to take too much responsibility for things that are not in your control. Actually, I don't want you to take any responsibility for things that are not in your control. And finally, remember, just because you think it does not mean it's true. Now, a lot of our thinking, stinking thinking, centers around what I call limiting beliefs. The things that we've developed, the ideas about ourselves, and we talked about this last week, how, the authority figures in your life, the way that you learn things, maybe what you watched as a child, you developed these ideas about who you are and how the world works. And I'm here to tell you, this is holding us back, and that's why I call them limiting beliefs, right? Now, we probably don't realize these because they live in our subconscious, right? But we might believe that other people have more luck than we do, so there's no point in trying. Now, that's a very limiting belief. Or we might believe, and I believed this for many years, that we have to keep others happy, like it's our job to make other people happy. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can't make anybody happy, only yourself. You are only responsible for your own happiness. So limiting beliefs about the world happen when you think you know how everything is. And that's just not true. And limiting beliefs about other people happen when you think that you know what others are thinking. Again, not true. And limiting beliefs about yourself happen when you think you are inherently awkward, stupid, or unlovable. Now, to overcome these limiting beliefs, you must delve deep into what you think. You actually have to hear them before you can recognize that you have them, and then you can prove them wrong. But first, you have to know them. So I love this slide because these are some of the things that almost all of us think, like I am not good enough, it will never change, I need to be in control. That's one of my big ones. I had really big control issues, and I worked on those diligently. There's no point in trying. That's a big one. I have to keep others happy. That was a big one of mine. I don't deserve to be loved. That would come from those things that you don't deserve something. Remember those thoughts from when you were a child? Or another great one is I have to be perfect, especially in order for people to like me or think I'm great. I have to be perfect. Absolutely false. I'm not safe in the world. This comes from the fear that we'll discuss in just a minute. And it's a big one. You have to really look for evidence that that is true. And I'm here to tell you, you won't find much. And then I am angry, right? Are you? Or is that just a response to the experiences you're having, and it gives you a false sense of power? And the really go-to one is nobody likes me. And that reminds me of the one that from the kids when it says, nobody likes me, I think I'll go eat worms. Do you remember that? Yeah. So those are some biggies, right, that hold us back, and they're the thinking obstacles that we have. So I like to talk about the negative self-talk a lot, because that is one of the biggest struggles and where many of our limiting beliefs reside, right? We are so negative. So I want you to replace the negative self-talk, the negative thinking actually, and I want you to first use this. This I used when I was teaching. I taught this every year. These were my classroom rules, and there was only 3, and that's all there ever were, because they encompass everything. So I would tell the kids, you've got to respect yourself. Number 1, respect yourself. Number 2, respect others. And number 3, take responsibility for your actions. Now, if you think about that, if you first respect yourself, you're not going to do something that is risky for yourself. You're not going to act in a way that is not in accord with what you want to be and how precious you are, right? So first, respect yourself. The other thing, you've got to respect others, right? They're on the planet with you and with us, and we need to respect them. We have no idea what they're going through. So respect others. If they need space, you respect that. You don't take their things. No, that's not respecting them. And then finally, whatever you've done, you take responsibility for it because you did it. You chose it. Even if it was, a knee-jerk reaction, you've got to take responsibility for that. And you've got to understand, okay, if that's something that I need to change, all right. Now, I am a firm believer that our lives are our responsibility. Absolutely no one is coming to save us. So we have to do what we need to do for ourselves. And if we don't like how something is in our life, you know what? It's up to us to change it, right? Nobody's going to change it except us. And then I finally want you to question what you believe. It's usually when you're making a decision that limiting beliefs will come up and you'll see their true colors. One of my examples is when I first retired, I had this feeling like I shouldn't go out every night of the week. Why? Why did I have that thought? Now that was interesting for me because, I'm older and I'm having this thought I shouldn't go out every night of the week. Now, I understand I have to make good choices. So if I don't have the money to go out every night of the week, I shouldn't be. Or if I'm sick or whatever, I shouldn't be. But realistically, if I can and I want to, I should. What's wrong with that? But I had this limiting belief that I shouldn't be going out every night of the week, and it came from my youth. And this took me a while to figure it out. But when I was a little kid, we always used to read the three little pigs. And I don't know if you remember that story, but the first little pig built his house out of straw, and the wolf came down and blew it down. I think the next one built it out of sticks, and again the wolf came and blew it down. And the 2 little pigs ran to their brother's house that was made out of bricks. And that withstood anything the wolf gave to it, because that was the brother or the pig that had actually built his house carefully and thoughtfully and planned ahead and had it just right. And so we always talk like that in our household of keeping the wolf from the door. And really what that meant in my childhood was that you weren't frivolous with money. My dad always said you never use the word only when talking about money. So it instilled in me this feeling like you can't be frivolous. So frivolous means you're going out every night of the week. And that's not true. That's a limiting belief I picked up as a child when I didn't understand how the world was working. So you might find those same sorts of things as you're going about your business, and learning your limiting beliefs. I challenge you to really listen whenever you're making decisions or having to think about something that you're planning ahead for. Really watch for those so you can hear them and then think about them and decide if they're good for you or not. Now, as humans, I want you to know we have much in common. So everything I'm talking about, almost everyone you meet and see has it. They think this way, things affect them this way. We are so similar from inheriting all that old DNA. We're very, very similar. Hardly anyone escapes this sort of thing. Now, they may not be self-aware enough to know that they're doing it, but they are doing it. So as humans with all this in common, we definitely have in common the obstacles of fear and worry. Now, we all want to be the best, right? And especially for ourselves, but we all worry. We all have fears, and we all believe thoughts that aren't true. So just feel unified in that. Don't feel like you're all alone, because you're not. You're with us. We all believe the same sorts of things. We all think we're not good enough, smart enough, don't know enough. Even those people, and I know you know who I'm talking about when I say this, even those people that you know that you kind of revere and think, wow, I want to be more like them. Guess what? They have the same worries, fears, and thoughts. It just is what it is. That's who we are. So let's look at a few of our common fears as humans, because fear, right? You know what fear is, don't you think? You know your heart races, your breathing quickens, you feel kind of a pit in your stomach. You might get dizzy or sweaty or get a dry mouth. Your muscles tense up or feel weak. Your body is sending extra adrenaline and blood to your muscles and brain in case you want to fight or flight. And we all experience fear when we freeze, right? We just don't even know what to say or do, and we can't get it, together. That's all fear. So we all pretty much experience fear in the similar ways, and it's really interesting that we all share the top. I think there's top 20 fears that we all share, and I just want to go through those quickly, and you can check to see which ones you have. Snakes, yep, that's me. Public speaking used to be, not anymore. Heights, oh, absolutely. Confined spaces, yep. Spiders, a little bit, not so much, but a little bit. Needles or shots, no, not really. I used to. Mice, not, well, they startled me, but I'm not afraid. But a lot of people are scared to death of mice. Flying, yes, that's another one. Dogs, when they're scary dogs, yes. Lightning and thunder, no, I absolutely love lightning and thunder, but my mother is scared to death of it. Crowds, yep, don't like crowds, and this picture even makes me kind of feel cringy just looking at it. Doctors, no, I'm not afraid of doctors, but so many people are. I mean, so many people are afraid of doctors. And the dark. Right? Who's afraid of the dark? I remember as a kid, I didn't want to go down in the basement if I ever had to, because it was dark. And even if you turned on the lights, there were dark spaces, and I just hated that. So how many of those do you share? I bet you share a lot of them, because, again, guess what? We're human. So fear, let's kind of delve into it a little bit. One of the things about fear is it's generally false evidence appearing real. Kind of like when you wake up from that dream and you had a really scary dream and your heart is racing, you feel sweaty or whatever it is. It's not even real, but you felt like it was a real. And lots of that is how it is. We make up stuff in our head, right? We fabricate thoughts, and then we tell ourselves that they're true. And so our brain believes that they're true because we said they were. And so then it has fear and it starts having those reactions, right? I mean, it just is what it is. But it really isn't. It's just you creating a lot of it. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't fear, because we should. There are times when fear is very important, but most of the time, not so much. Like public speaking. Okay, is it really going to kill you to do public speaking? And what if you need to do that for your job and you're not able to do it, and so you're held back in your job just because you're afraid of public speaking? Think about that. Like, we are allowing fear, which isn't really real, to control us and hold us back. No, that just shouldn't happen. I don't want that for you. So think of fear as false evidence appearing real to try to help yourself through that. The other thing about fear, and I love this one so much, is fear and excitement feel exactly the same way in our body. Like physiologically, it feels the same. So really, if we want to think about it that way, when I'm trying to do public speaking, I'm not fearful, I'm actually excited. I can shift my thoughts to I'm excited about it. So it's really the story that we tell about what we're thinking that helps us explain how we're feeling. Now remember, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be afraid, because there are times when we should really be noticing and be put off by certain things going on around us. We have to be heightened awareness of where the exits are and who's in our vicinity and who's out of control. I totally agree with that. But a lot of times we could shift our focus to it's excitement that I'm feeling, not fear. Right? Now, the other thing about this fear thing and excitement, anxiety, fearful things, live in the future and the past, not in the present. So we're daydreaming what it might be like, those what if ideas, or we're thinking about the past. But remember, the way you remember the past isn't accurate. We don't have 100% recollection. We actually alter what happened a bit, and especially every time we think about it, we alter it a little bit. So one of the things that I want you to do when you get fearful is sit there and do nothing. Don't try to drink it away. Don't try to eat it away. I just want you to sit and experience it, right? So sit with your fear for a few minutes. Think about it. Try to find the root cause for it. And then try to hear the story that you're telling yourself about why you can't overcome this fear. So fear usually arises when we're trying to do something new and different. And that is the exciting part of life, right? But when you're feeling fear, I want you to use those grounding techniques. And one of the best ones that I found is called rhythmic breathing. Now, there's different forms of rhythmic breathing, right? There's square breathing, there's all sorts of things. I just do it in my head. But here's one that is circle breathing. And what you're going to imagine this circle to be is cut up into quarters. And so you imagine yourself going around one of the quarters and then doing something different on the next quarter. So let's start this. So at the top, we're going to breathe in for a quarter. Then you hold it for a quarter. Then you breathe out for a quarter. And then you hold it for a quarter. Now what you're trying to do with this is you are trying to slow your heart rate. You're trying to slow your breathing, get it more into control, because what that does is it puts you in the present moment. Rather than living in the future or the past, you're actually present right here and right now. So let's just try it together for a moment. We're going to breathe in, hold it, breathe out, and then hold it. Breathe in and hold, and then breathe out and hold. Now breathe in, hold, and breathe out. And also what you're trying to do is breathe in fully to the full extent, and then breathe out fully. And that will get you in the present moment like none other, and all of a sudden you don't have fear. And I use this when I'm flying, because you can't freak out on the plane or you'll get on the no-fly list. So you've got to get yourself under control. And so what I do is I start doing my breathing techniques, and it works every time. I don't really mind flying so much. It's really the landing that sets me off. So now, let's talk about fear, right? And the biggest fear we have, do you know what it is? Can you imagine what it is? The Taj Mahal of all fear is that of failure. We fear failure like none other. And again, this goes back to old DNA. If we fail, we won't survive. If we screw it up, we might not be welcome in the group, right? So it's all in the name of survival and that stupid inherited DNA. But hey, it is what it is. So I'd like you to reframe this this fear of failure as fail, which is first attempt in learning. So think about it. What have you not done because you were afraid of failing? Think about that. What didn't you do because you went, oh no, I can't do that. I won't be able to do that. Really? No, you're not going to stop anymore. You're going to actually do it because you're going to talk yourself into getting those opportunities and grasping them. So I want you to think of fail. So let's think of something that you want to try, right? And what if I told you you couldn't fail? Like you won't fail. No matter what it is that you want to try, you won't fail. You have guaranteed success. Well, what would you try? Isn't that a weird thought? Because the moment I say that, I go, oh my Lord, I don't know. And it's just such a wide open docket. I don't even know what to think of, right? So you have to sit with that for a while and just go, okay, if I know for 100% I won't fail, what actually would I try, right? And one of the things that I decided was this course. I'm going to put this course out there for people to use. And at first I was, no, I can't do that. I don't even know how to do that. But I decided, no, you can learn to do that, and you are going to do it because you need to seize those opportunities and provide help because you have a special skill. You need to provide help to other people. So beyond fear, right, what fear usually turns on into is worry. And let me tell you, I am a professional worrier. I have mastered this like nobody's business, right? But think about it. Is worry really worth your time? Have you worried about something and it never happened? Yes. Almost everything you worry about never happens. And the stuff that actually does happen blindsides you. It just comes out of nowhere. And you would have never thought of that in a million years, but there it is. That's the thing that actually happened. So why worry? It's such a waste of time. But you know what it is? It's our dumb brain saying, I got to be busy. Because remember, old DNA, you had to be super busy and vigilant, looking out for what was going to happen. So, of course, worry's built into us, right? The other thing that happens is when we worry and it doesn't happen, we believe that worry prevented that from happening, right? It's a good thing I worried, right? It's safer if I worry. I show care by worrying. Worrying motivates me, or worrying helps me solve problems. Is that even true? Good Lord, show me 3 pieces of evidence for that. Now, worries most often arise because we're not prepared, and so does fear, actually. That's interesting that we are fearful because we're not actually prepared. Like if you actually prepare to public speak, it's not even a problem. If you practice on the stage, which I do 3 times before I get up there on the actual stage, not with people around, but you actually do it. You go run through your speech 3 different times in exactly the place that you'll give it. Guess what? When you finally do it, it's like, oh, that's not so bad. But not being prepared, oh yeah, that is scary because you don't know what you're doing and you will likely have some missteps. So worries most often arise when we're not prepared. We feel uneasy, we feel uncertain, right? We haven't planned what's going to happen. So one sure way to manage your worries is to set up routines. And I love morning routines, evening routines, and weekend routines. So as an educator and a math teacher, I'm here to tell you, over 38 years worth of teaching so many kids every year, I never lost one test, quiz, graded thing, never lost anything. And the reason is I had a complete structure to how I did things. I had a school bag, and if something came out of the school bag, it went right back into the school bag when I was done with it. I didn't leave things out randomly. I also had my school bag prepped every evening to be picked up and taken with me to work the next morning. It's that kind of thing that is structure that helps you be prepared so that you don't have to face fears and worries. Right? So we'll get into it. I'm going to show you a place in the book where you can do that. But I want you to have intentional routines for morning and evening. And I also want you to have intentional routines for the weekend because guess what? You need to craft time for you. You really do. You need to have that time where you have time off and you're doing the things that you find happy and pleasurable so that you feel fulfilled and you feel like you paid attention and your needs are being met. Now, some of the ways that I prepare for things and I stay on top of my game is I actually have a dry erase marker in my bathroom, which I use to write on my bathroom mirror. And you write the most important details that I have to remember. And I do it on the bathroom mirror because I see that first thing in the morning and I see it last thing at night. So I remember what's going on. And I'll just quickly, and if I get up in the middle of the night and I can't let go of something, I'll just quickly jot the notes down on the mirror with that magic, that dry erase marker, and then I can let it go. So there's a sunscreen song. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but you can look it up. It's the sunscreen song. It was actually written as a graduation address, I think in 1999. But then Baz Luhrmann picked it up and he does it spoken with some music in the background. I love this sunscreen song. You must listen to it. It's everywhere. You can listen to it anywhere. But it's a great one and it's hilarious. And you probably have to listen to it a few times or get the lyrics so you can watch them. But in one part of it, he says, don't worry about the future or worry. But know that worrying is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubble gum. The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never crossed your worried mind. The kind that blindside you at 4 p.m. on some idle Tuesday afternoon. I want you to think about that because that truly has happened to me too many times to even say. I would have never dreamt of the thing happening, and it did blindside me at 5:30 p.m. on an afternoon, a weekday afternoon. It was wild. It was the craziest thing, and I went, wow, worrying is useless. So think about the things you've worried about, especially the huge things that you have, and think, did they actually happen? Right? But what about the things that actually did come up that were scary and overwhelming, etc.? Did you worry about those? I bet you didn't even think of them. So the skill that I came up with for this, and this is out of my own arsenal of how I use techniques and strategies, I call it and then what? And if you look down this hallway, you see a door at the end, and that's how I see our worries. We keep them really, really far down a long hallway so that they can't get too close because we're sure that our worries are going to overcome us, right? They're going to destroy us if they get too close, if anything happens. And so we just keep them way down at the end there, right? You think they'll be too much for you to handle, whatever it is you're worrying about. But in reality, that's not actually true. What we need to do, and Thich Nhat Hanh says this, he says we squash our worries into the basement and we lock the door and we put lots of padlocks on it and we try to squish them down in the basement. But truly what happens is they kind of, eke through the floor when anything comes up. And so what you must do is deal with them. You can't keep them squashed behind a door at the end of the hall or down in the basement. You actually have to address them. So to work through any worried thoughts that keep me stuck, and I'm going to say you too, I use and then what to force myself down that hall and behind that door so I can see what I'm truly worried about and realize it won't kill me. So let me walk you through it. So let me start with my actual thought. I am going to be so sad when anyone dies, like my husband, my mother, my kids. I just imagine, like, I'm going to, if that happens, I will not be able to make it through. That's my thought, right? Well, immediately I ask myself, okay, so you're sad, and then what? So I have to think about that. Okay, I'm sad because somebody died, like close to me, and I'm crying unconsolably. Okay, so what happens when that happens? Well, I will cry a lot. And then I go, okay, so you cry a lot, and then what? Well, I'll be so sad. There'll be such deep sadness within me. Oh, and then you say to yourself, okay, you will feel deep sadness inside you, and then what? I have to think about that for a minute. Well, I'll never be happy again. Of course, that's the worst case scenario, and that's where I'm headed, right? I'll never be happy again. Okay, go there. You'll never be happy again, and then what? Well, oh my Lord. Well, I will not be fun to be around. Okay, you're not fun to be around, and then what? And here's the clincher. Well, everyone will leave me and I'll be alone. Okay, everyone will leave you. You're all alone, and then what? And at that moment, I say to myself, wow, I'll have to change and make new friends. And at that point, I have gone through the door, gone behind it, met my fear head on, right? And I know that I will be sad, but I also know it won't be the end of me. And now I'm less worried about it. And that's what that process is all about. You've got to walk down that hallway, get to the end of the hallway, open that door, go behind it, meet your worry, and find out exactly what that means. And what you'll find out is it's not as bad as you think. Yes, it will. It's not great, but you can handle it. That's the big thing. So I want you to think about that. Okay, so we made it through the presentation, and you know this is heavier than last week, right? You can tell it's getting a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper as we go along. But these are, as you realize, the common obstacles that stand in our way of living that life that we want to live and to the fullest, right? Reaching our promise and potential. If we auger in on fear and worry, where are we going to get ourselves? If we hold on to those limiting beliefs that I'm no good, life doesn't work out, people have more luck than I do, how's that going to work out for us? Not well. You know, if we fear failure and never try, what are we going to gain out of that? A life of not having any opportunities realized. And I always operate on the deathbed. When I'm lying on my deathbed, I don't want to have those regrets. I don't want to think, wow, I wish I would have. No, I don't want to do that. And I don't want you to do that either. So we've worked through that. You can see where we're headed for this coming week and the things that you're going to practice. All right. So I'm going to show you in the book exactly what this kind of looks like. And I'm going to go through that morning, evening, and weekend routine as well. So let's take a look at that. Let's go to, I think it's page, let me find it. I think it's 68. So on page 68, you can see that I have made this spot where you can plan your routines by writing them down. And I want you to try them out, right? Actually create a morning routine, create an evening routine, create a weekend routine, and I want you to actually implement them, right? And do them for a solid week and see how it changes your feelings, all right? I want you to try that out. And then your journaling happens, it starts on page 73, your week 2 journaling, and I describe what you're going to be going through. You're going to be doing negative thinking, limiting beliefs, fear, worry, and the skill that you're going to implement is, and then what? You know, last week it was, is that true? This week it's going to be, and then what? And I want you to, when you have worries, actually go through that. So I have 4 pages of this, so for each week, and you can see that this is the day you're going to put in here and the date, and then you're going to start with negative thinking, and you're going to write down, right, what is it that happens, right? What time of day do you have these negative thoughts? If there is a pattern, what kind of negative thoughts are they? What's driving that negative thought? Then I want you to think of your limiting beliefs. Every time you make a decision and try to get to the bottom of what you made you decide that way or not. Maybe it was some limiting belief that you should let go of and it's holding you back. The other thing that you're going to look at are your fears. You're going to write down your fears and when they occur and each decide if it's a real fear or is it excitement or is it based on what if, right? Is it a fear of failure? Right? And then at the end of the week, you can actually go through and look for a pattern. And finally, you'll do your worries. When you have a worry, just jot it down quickly, right? And then you can, when you have time, do the and then what exercise to work through your thoughts because you know that's important for us to do. We want to not live by our worries. So let's look at the tracking page. It's on page 89, and it's just like last week, except now we're looking at the pieces that are about this. You're still making your bed. You're still starting your day with gratitude. But then you're going to go into negative thinking, limiting beliefs, fear, worry, and then what? And you're going to end your day with joy. So let's say on Tuesday, you did make your bed. Well, you write your date. You did make your bed. You started your day with gratitude. You did check your negative thinking, right? You didn't find any limiting beliefs, but you looked for them, so you check it. You didn't have any fears, but you checked for them, so you check it. And then if you had a worry, you worked through the and then what, so you check it. And then you look for joy at the end of the day. Now, again, this week, you're still marking down your gratitudes and joys. You're still making lists of them. Just general, short, little, quick things to remind you of what you had decided was a gratitude and what were the joys. And remember, it could be one joy, it could be 5 joys, it could be 2, it could be the same for gratitudes. I really challenge you, though, to get those 5 gratitudes every day and different ones every day, because that's an important piece of what we're doing. And then moving forward, your homework, you know how there's homework. You're going to be reading chapter 3, and it's actually pages 91 through 115, and you'll see that you do the 91 through 115, and 115 is right where you start your journaling page, so you don't have to read that. But that's what your homework is for next week, or this coming week, I should say, right? So I know it seems like a lot, but it isn't too much. It's just enough, because remember, you're doing this for you. You're working on you. It's such important work to do, because you're going to have these life-changing moments within this. Not everything will resonate with you, but some of it will. And as one of my previous participants in this work said, this has been life-changing for her, because she never knew these nuances of how she was thinking and how she could think differently that made more sense to her and made her life that much easier. So I am super excited to hear from you and know that this is working for you. So drop me a note, will you? And let me know. Just let me know how it's going and if it's working for you and what is working for you. I'd love to know that. And revel in the fact that you are taking care of your needs. You are doing good work for you, right? And you're building your resilience. And you're going to be all that much better for it. So super excited. This was week 2. We're moving on to week 3. We're actually halfway there. So congratulate yourself. Pat yourself on the back. That's an important thing to do, and say, Yahoo, I am doing great work for me. So I will see you in a week, and I just hope everything goes well. I hope you have a fabulous week. All right, see you later. Bye.